Hi, this is Lorraine, and I am doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear center and balance my energy, we'll get started. Well, this week didn't have a lot of messages, not global messages. There are more very personal ones for me, more step-by-step things I need to do personally. And so I didn't think I had a video to do this weekend, but then today, this morning, a whole bunch of information came in, and so much so that I stopped writing and just decided that I was just going to start with what I had written and then just allow the information to flow as I was doing the video. But there were some messages that came in, some continuations from the last video that came in a little bit at a time through this week. Excuse me, and I will, I'm going to start with that and then do everything in order, okay? So, I used to do a meetup group in, I think, 2018, and the beginning of 2019. And I used to, it was just a place for people with new experiences to come and meet and talk about those experiences. It was free. I just kind of moderated the conversation just to help people maybe interpret or understand what was happening. But there was a lady that came with some book from, and it just turned out she was trying to kind of recruit people to follow this group. And there's just a couple people there. It wasn't a big deal. But I asked her what this image was in the book, and she said that was what they perceived as what the universe looked like. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. It looks like the pineapple that my mom had on her dress forever, but laid on its side. And I'll do a little picture-in-picture thing of that pineapple because I actually have it on my on a dresser over here. But I just thought that was interesting. It was my mom's pineapple on its side. So when I started thinking about that Fibonacci spiral laying on its side and then moving away, I had to think about what that implications were. So I'm thinking the Fibonacci spiral always represents creation. When I see it, when I feel it, I think about black holes and I think about quasars. I think about all these things, gravity. I think of creation. Dark and light, I think of creation. And so I have these notes from July 8th. Model of the universe on its side or moving through space at an angle. Galaxies moving at an angle. So I read an article, if I could find it, I'll post it in the description, where they were talking about how galaxies are not stationary. We're all not stationary in space. We're actually moving through space. And so there's this model of a galaxy, our galaxy moving through space. And it was like, since I calculated with based on the information they gave that I had traveled like so many trillions of miles through space since I was born, based on the information they gave. And but the article with the graphics kind of showed the galaxy moving kind of at an angle like this. It's not so. When we see the Fibonacci spiral and we think of the Bible as above, so below, same thing in Egyptian beliefs. As above, so below. And I do have a graphic of the Fibonacci spiral I'll also post with that, the triangle on the top and on the bottom. We have this perception of top and bottom, left and right. And I would say about a year or two ago, I also had another vision, and like kind of information just comes in all the time of about perception. So this, in the end, this whole week, I'm like, that Fibonacci spiral, laying on its side and moving away, was teaching me about perception. And God, that was a long lesson to learn, because, you know, it took me 6 months to figure out that the tornado was actually a Fibonacci spiral, right? So first I have to figure out that it's a Fibonacci spiral. Then I have to start working on, well, what does that mean for it to move and lay on its side and then move away from me? And I had always had a feeling that it was about perception, but this week it came in very strong. It is absolutely right. You're right. It's about perception. And then I started having the visions again about the sphere. And I have this, I actually wrote it in my journal again. Because I'm a very visual person. So when I see things, it kind of solidifies it, and it reinforces it. So this vision of the sphere and this knowing that came in about the sphere is, you know, we always want to put something like the North Pole is the top of the earth, the South Pole is the bottom of the earth, right? Greenland's on the top, Antarctica's on the bottom. Left and right is a little bit harder because we're turning all the time, right? But definitely we have a top and a bottom, okay? So if we think about a sphere, a ball, and we have a top, I should have gotten a ball. Oh, I have this, I have my top and I have my bottom, right? But if I turn it, now where's the top and the bottom? This is now the top and the bottom, but since I turned it, where was the previous top and bottom? Well, now it's here and here, right? So I turn it again. Now it's here and here, or is it here and here, or is it here and here, right? Where's the front and back? Every time I turn it, it changes the top and the bottom. So our idea of top and bottom, left and right, is perception, is what we perceive as being the top and the bottom based on what we're seeing, right? What we're visualizing. It's all perception, okay? What we need to understand about this universe and about this existence is every experience is about perception. It's about our perception of that experience. If we perceive it as good or bad, joyous or sadness, it's how we perceive those experiences. And who I am as a person, and who the person on the bus next to me is as a person, and who my coworker is as a person. Their experiences up until this point right now, as we, let's say, observe this experience in this moment, will perceive it differently, as happy, sad, funny, ridiculous, painful, joyful, right? Boring, exciting. It's all based on our experiences up to that point. Okay, and so everybody's perception is different and everybody's experience is different. What we're kind of working through right now is people are trying to gear us towards what is happy, what is sad, what is right, what is wrong, what is what we're supposed to want, what we're supposed to dislike, based on a paradigm they're trying to create. No individual person is honored based on who they are and their experiences, okay? they're trying to kind of herd us into a certain direction, a certain paradigm, a certain perception. Okay, they want us to perceive ourselves in a certain way and then determine how we project that out into the world and onto each other. Okay, I'm going to put this back. Fibonacci Spiral is just, that vision was just about for me to bring up, to inspire me to bring up this whole idea of perception. Okay, and I think that's definitely going to come in more as I read through this. So I always talk about my friend that I'm supposed to be reunited with. A whole lot of information came in about him that I'm not going to talk about, but everything is connected, so it all plays into each other, and he's a very important part of the big picture of my purpose on this world. So even though it doesn't really concern maybe what's going on in this video, it does concern the flow of energy and the direction of my path. So I have, I must create, this was July 10th, you must create more balance in your vices. So I have a really bad sweet tooth. My dad does too. I get it from my dad. I have a very bad sweet tooth. And I try to control it by just, when I eat sweets, I eat what I like, so I don't try to eat a whole bunch of sweets trying to satiate myself, my sweet tooth. So they're just like, I need to create more balance in that area, which is kind of funny, but very true. You are whole. You are transitioning. We are elevating your energy field. You have everything you need, but this transition must be gradual to keep you connected to this plane of existence. Give all time. You will manifest, create all. You will create yourself on this world and show all what is within their capabilities when they embrace their true selves. Okay, and so I was asking, why are you always bowing to me? I don't understand that. And so I always feel like we all need to acknowledge that we're all the same. We're all equal. There's no one better or less than us. There's a huge, many hierarchies on this world that create, that tell us where we belong, right? In this hierarchy. But I've always believed that we're all equal, and that's how I was raised, and I always treat people as equal. And so when they bow, it always makes me uncomfortable. And so I ask, why do you keep bowing to me? And they say, we bow to you because we are you. So when we acknowledge that we are all connected, we are all part of the same whole, and we are all whole as one. When we acknowledge that and we understand that, then this statement, we bow to you because we are you, is very clear. Okay, it's very simple. It can be confusing if you haven't understood and accepted that we're all connected, we're all part of a whole. And when we are unified, we are one whole. And that's difficult to understand because we have been taught that we are separate. We have been separated from one another. And this transition is all about reunification. You are correct. The Fibonacci spiral on its side is a lesson in perception. What is above and what is below? And that's a question mark. And that's why I use the example of the sphere, is what is above, what is below, what is the top, what is the bottom, what are the sides. It's all about perception. And so I just asked about the culling, and I know it's going to happen, and it's very upsetting for me. It's upsetting for me to give that message, and it's upsetting for it to manifest into reality. And so I just said, when will it happen? And they said, when they feel they can wait no longer. When they feel like if they don't do it now, all will surely be lost. So this negative polarity, this negative energy, the people that are projecting it, are still of the belief that they can overtake this world and they can override or usurp the divine. And so when they feel like they have no other choice but to do it, like as a last ditch effort, that's when the culling will happen, because they have to reduce the numbers of people to give them the advantage. The biggest issue on earth is there's too many people. No matter what they have to try to overtake us, they still need us to do the work, right? They still need the slaves. So they can't just clear the planet and of everybody and everything. They still need some humans to do the work. So, but as it is, they can't just overtake this planet because there's too many of us. They have to thin us out. They have to thin the herd, and that's what the culling is. And so when they feel like they can't wait any longer, they feel like there's no other option but to start, that's when it will begin. And once they've done that, the numbers of people on the earth will dwindle to the point where they feel like they can now use force to control what's going on here. So I asked about my dad, and I'm not going to go into that. And so on that day, 2 crows, was that the 10th? Or are we still on the 10th? Yeah. 2 crows flew directly over my head and landed on a sign near me. So they flew about 5 feet above my head. I could feel the wind beneath their wings. They landed on a sign near me while I was out for my walk today. They flew within about 5 feet of my head. I could feel the wind beneath their wings as they flew over, one after the other. So it was just 1 and then 2 right after each other, and then they landed on the sign. And it's all about perspective, and it's all about a higher perspective. Because sometimes I still get frustrated, sometimes I get sad, and I move myself out of balance. And so I have to come from a higher perspective of understanding that all these events were put in place well before these last few years. They were put in place at the beginning of time, and what we would call the beginning of time. And so I have to kind of relax into this and allow it to happen and just project love and light energy, remain centered, and project the energy of the divine. Connect to my true self and always come from that place. And so as I kind of came back from being out for my walk and I did my exercises, why does my mind travel between light and dark? Guide my mind to the proper place to fulfill my purpose. And that was my request, because as I'm walking and I'm seeing these messages about perception, and I understand the message, I just need to ask for help in maintaining balance and help in coming from a higher perspective. Because as emotional beings, the emotions influence our thoughts, okay, which makes us probably some of the most powerful energies in the universe on the material plane, because from that energy of love, that emotion of love, we can create the most beautiful things if we can if we can maintain balance, centeredness, okay? And so I'm always asking for help in that area. Now, at this point, I don't move very far out of center. But even during this transition, even the slightest bit slows the process. So I'm always asking for help to stay in the center. Okay. And I say this, we're always going to move kind of a little bit out of center because, you know, my dad's 95. He has dementia. I know eventually he's going to pass. So I know in that moment I will be sad. And I have to allow myself to be sad and move through that emotion. But then I will be inspired from the beauty of my life and how he influenced my life to move me out of that sadness into happiness, joy, gratitude. Okay, but but as emotional beings on this world, it's inevitable that we move between the two of light and dark. It's inevitable. It's about understanding and having perspective so that we can allow ourselves to mourn, or in this situation, allow myself to mourn, and then be able to move myself back to the positive and then back to center. Okay? Okay, so then the 11th, which is today, all energy has consciousness. All energy has consciousness. This has been coming to me for many years, probably 3 or 4. Very strong, like that knowing, not just a thought, but a knowing. You cannot truly believe if you have never doubted that thing that you believe in, that thing that you trust in. All energy has consciousness. So, and I say that you can't truly believe unless you've doubted that thing you believe in, because I've met people, I'm related to people who are just so steadfast in the paradigm of religion that and they don't question anything about it, and they think that makes them a person of very strong faith. But I think more so than not, their fear in questioning it, or the fear that they've questioned it and they don't want to say it, creates fear in judgment, right? Because we're raised, especially being Catholic, we're raised that God judges, right? So we don't want to admit that we've doubted because it's frowned upon. At least it's frowned upon in my family. And so I just think that people need to understand that if you've whatever you've doubted, those things that you've had the most trust and faith in, the things you've doubted and then came back to as belief, and that you still have trust and faith in, that trust and faith is even stronger because you've taken the time to stop and think about it, question it, and then answer the questions that made you doubt, and then strengthen that faith in that thing. Because you've had the courage to doubt it, you have the courage to be steadfast in that belief. One of the other things, the other messages that keep coming to me is we must feed our bodies with living things. Fruit, vegetables, beans, and meat. We need to feed our body living things. There's so many preservatives in our food now that we need to actually feed our body the things of this earth, because the things of this earth that feed our bodies were put here for us. Okay? So here's another lesson in perception, and actually it's an extension of the lesson in perception, and it's something that I've talked to a lot of people about. So let me just say, read this. You perceive eating meat as cruel, torturous. It makes one less than. Why don't you feel the same way about eating fruits or vegetables? Plants also have consciousness. Okay, and we have this hierarchy that's been created in our society now that vegetarians are, eating fruits and vegetables is cruelty free, right? And because what we do to animals, how we torture animals. And so there's a hierarchy of vegetarians being up here, vegans, really wholesome, good people, because they don't eat any meat, anything meat products. And then we have all the variations of vegetarian. We have omnivores, and then we have carnivores. And let me say that people, and I'm just going to put aside that there's this perception of eating a carnivore is okay, or killing a carnivore is okay. And nowadays, killing a carnivore for sport is okay because they're vicious creatures, right? Lions, tigers, bears. But they're put on this earth to eat, and they're meant to eat meat. And nothing that they do is out of cruelty. They are not malicious. They hunt when they're hungry, they eat what they need, and then they move on, right? They're not hunting to be cruel, they're hunting to sustain their bodies, okay? When we trophy hunt, that's all about ego, okay? And I've talked about this in the past. The Native Americans, way back when Europeans first came to the United States, they hunted. This is what we were supposed to learn from them and the indigenous people on this world. When they hunted to nourish their bodies and take care of their villages and their communities. They said a prayer or did some kind of honoring or offering before they went hunting. Then they hunted, and their most skillful hunters hunted. They killed the animal as quickly as possible, and then they cleaned it, and they used every part of the animal. Okay, nothing went to waste, right? They honored the animal. They showed gratitude to the animal and God, the creator of all things, for providing the animal to feed them, to skins, furs to keep them warm, other parts for other things they use within their villages, right? That was honoring the animal, okay? Honoring the offering, honoring God, the creator of all things, Mother Earth, for providing. Nowadays, we don't do that. The way that we process animals and then torture them and then kill them to prepare for the butcher shop is unconscionable. And now we have organizations that connect you with organic or cruelty-free or ethical killing of animals that are provided to market. I think Eat Wild is a great site. But our bodies are meant to eat certain foods, and so we need to provide our bodies with that to maintain balance. That's one thing. The other thing is the same way that these slaughterhouses or meat packers, whatever they do, how they torture the animal, they infuse that negative energy into that animal, And then when we ingest it, we're ingesting that negative energy. That's why prayer in Western society, when you pray before you eat, you express gratitude. It's like a clearing of the food, okay? Clearing of the energy of the food. I need to also help you to understand that what they've done to fruits and vegetables now, they've made them toxic. So the same way they infuse negative energy into meat by torturing the animal before they kill them, they infuse negative energy into fruits and vegetables by all this genetic modification. It's like giving the fruit and vegetables cancer, but you can't see it. You just ingest it. So this is my plant Gracie. And when I say all energy has consciousness, all energy has consciousness. You can communicate with any particle of energy. So everything in my room is a particle of energy that has consciousness. This is Gracie. She's my plant. She's the one I found in the garage. I think it's about 1.5 years now. And I didn't know if I wanted to keep her because she's a flowering plant, and I thought I'd kill her for sure. But I've only gotten 1 flower out of her, but she's doing very well otherwise. I haven't been able to get her to flower other than once, but she's doing very well. She's a peace lily, right? So anyway, I'm bringing up Gracie, my peace lily, because I chat with her all the time, and she talks back to me. Just like when I had a dog, when I was married, we had Nikita and Miley, and just the same as when we'd start preparing her food, she'd come over and she'd sit and wait, and then me or Randy would put her food down, and she'd be so excited, and then she'd eat it, and she would be so excited, and then she'd go lay down. So when I start getting her water, she feels me. And I start saying, I'm getting your water, I'm gonna get your spray bottle, I'm gonna spray you, and she gets like giddy, like Miley, like my dog did when we were preparing for her dog food. When I prepare water, her fertilizer, which I do once a month, she's super excited. I mean, she gets so excited, and then I'm like, I'm gonna spray you too, and she gets so excited, and it's a feeling I get. She's not like barking or whimpering. Obviously, she's not a dog, but she is projecting energy of like such joy. And when I come in from work, sometimes she'll be like, I have not had a drink of water. You need to give me some water. So I will go and get her water. And so there is a communication that happens because all energy has consciousness. And therefore, if you have the ability to telepathically communicate with that consciousness, you can talk to your plants. And I think a lot of that was something that came out like in the 70s or 80s, where people are like, you can talk to your plants, you know, it makes them so happy. They used to say it's the oxygen that you're projecting as you talk to your plants, but it's not. It's just the sharing. It's a communication. It's showing affection, and all consciousness responds to that. All animals, all creatures, it's just easier to see when you have a dog that comes and leans into you or licks you or rubs you, right, with their head. It's easier to see them reciprocate those emotions. But plants and other creatures in this universe, on this world, will communicate with you. So all energy has consciousness. If all energy has consciousness, then how can you say that eating a vegetable or a fruit makes you a better person and not eating meat makes you a better person? Because that energy has consciousness, just like the energy from that animal has consciousness. Okay? It's not about what you eat. It's how we treat the energy around us, the world around us. That is what this lesson is about. That's what this lesson that we've been experiencing for these many years is about. How do we honor the energy around us? whether it is a plant, an animal, the soil, the rocks. What do we do with the items that we create from the wood, the soil, the rocks? Meaning furniture, electronics, lights, all the stuff that we create. What do we do with it? Right now, we just throw it in the garbage. Okay, we have lost, and we say we're recycling, but I was just reading an article that we recycle what, 7% of the stuff we throw away. When I was a kid, everything could be repaired. When I was a kid, everything was made so sturdy that it didn't fall apart, that it didn't break. And if it did, it had screws in it. You could take it apart, take it to a small appliance mechanic or service person, and they would fix it. And you could take it back home and keep using it. Now, if something breaks, you throw it away. Okay? So, and to say, oh, I'm recycling, if that really makes you feel better, I'm not sure what to say. I think it would be best if you step back and look at the big picture and start doing research, because it's better, as far as I'm concerned, for me to keep something that I bought that's of good quality and repair it and keep using that thing than to throw something away and buy a new one every 2 years. That's just my opinion, but I think that we need to understand and we need to honor the lessons that we have been provided, and those who have learned the lessons should be honored, that they were wise and learned the lessons and were able to look past the paradigms that have been presented, the hard sales that have been presented, and grow. Okay? So let me just read what I wrote. You perceive eating meat as cruel, torturous. It makes one less than. Why don't you feel the same way about eating fruits or vegetables? Plants also have consciousness. Is it because they do not bellow like a bison or a moose? I can engage plants as readily as animals because all energy has consciousness. You struggle with the perception of consciousness of life. This world was meant to teach us to honor all. The Native Americans and indigenous people of the world taught us how to honor the energy placed here to nourish our bodies. Humanity lost sight of that, was driven away from unification of all energy. This is what we are going through now. This is about the reunification of thought, of energy. Those transcending are moving through the process of understanding this truth from a higher perspective. As this perspective becomes clearer, our needs change. Humanity is meant to always incarnate on the material plane. We are meant to transcend the universe from this physical plane of existence. Those transcending are the most fortified energies in the universe. The others are here for the experience. The others will be incarnating on worlds more appropriate for their evolutionary state. This is how it was meant to be. The calling was always meant to be. In its attempt to overtake, rule this world, it removed itself from it. This was always how it was meant to be. And so it being this negative energy, the negative polarity, those projecting that energy on this world. Any form of currency promotes slavery. Any form of currency creates a hierarchy and promotes oppression and slavery. And so I've heard about changes in currency and a one world currency, and anytime there's money, currency, there is a hierarchy. It promotes a hierarchy. That means some people are going to have more, some people are going to have less. You can't evenly distribute currency. We already know communism doesn't work, socialism doesn't work. Okay? It's not going that way. It's not going that way. So I was meditating today and I had a vision, and Moses bows to me, and he's on his knees and he bows to me. He says, "My people are free. Do your bidding." And then the message is, the culling will begin. Then they walk away, Moses and his people. And then I see the whole planet Earth. It's covered in darkness, just like a light, like the sun going down. Just, it's covered in darkness. And then it's covered in light. Just the light comes up, like the sun coming up. And then there's light. The past will not define or determine the future of this world. That is why only those who have demonstrated the ability to release the past, capable of forgiveness and unconditional love, are transcending. What has occurred on Mother Earth since the beginning of time to this day will not define her. The lessons learned from those events, the wisdom wrought from these experiences, the shape procured has established the foundation, the starting point of this new age. This was decided in the beginning. Nothing will change it. The events that follow are the desire of the beings of this world. The collective consciousness chose fear and will live out that desire. At the divergence of the collective consciousness of this world, those transcending began anew. The process of creation was once again inspired. Those transcending create anew. We are all blessed, but there may come a time when you do not feel blessed. It is in these moments it is in those moments where you are being asked to find your way to faith and trust in something greater than yourself, greater than anything this or any other world could possibly offer you. Can you do that? So, in one of my past videos, I talked about the divergence of the positive and negative polarity, how it was separating itself out, and those who chose the negative polarity in fear, did not choose faith, would be incarnating in the Cepheus constellation. Those who would be transcending at that moment were beginning to create the world that Mother Earth would become. And that's what this last section is referring to, is that divergence of the collective consciousness. So when the culling begins, those people who chose the negative polarity, who will be, or fear, will be asking why, they will be wailing, they will be sad, angry, bitter. You will see that sadness, that anger, that bitterness, that fear that moved them in the direction of that negative polarity to find security in the vaccine, right? When they become ill, when they become whatever comes to pass, they will once again be faced with that fear. And in that moment, what will you place your faith in? What will you place your trust in? Will you find a way to have faith and trust in God, the creator of all things? Or will you choose to hold on to bitterness, anger, and fear? When I started making these videos over a year and a half ago, I said I would ride out whatever came to pass. And if I was meant to die, I will pass to the light. I'm not afraid. I know what awaits me. To shed this body would be a gift. The weight is heavy. The knowing is heavy. This isn't something that anybody knowingly asks for or wants. But somewhere, sometime, someplace, some moment, I agreed to this task that I've been asked to endure, provide, engage in. And so I do so willingly. And I know why, because I know I will follow through on anything I set my mind to. And I've seen many energies who I can look at and see their past, where they've been, what they've done, who have lost sight. And some have committed suicide because this world became too much to tolerate. And so there are certain energies on this world I know that have been put in place because they are equally unstoppable. And so before I finish this video, this keeps coming to me. And one of the things, where I work during the day, there's a lot of veterans. And a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD, and so, but that comes from the knowing that they carry, from the experiences that they've been through. And there's a lot of darkness. And one thing I know about vets from my family, from my grandfather, my great uncle especially, my Uncle Dan, my nephew, my cousin, is that these men joined the military with the idea of that they were doing something good. They were doing something good for their family. They were doing something good for their country. And then also to help them out and to help their families for the opportunities that are afforded them by joining the military. And then they find themselves in the Middle East. They find themselves in Vietnam. They find themselves, my uncle, in Europe in World War II. In the middle of darkness. And I want to say, especially for the younger men today who are in the Middle East, who really thought they were doing good and they really thought they were helping people, I can see that once they get there, that there's an ambiguity, like Am I really helping, or am I the darkness? Especially with different branches in the military, depending on what they're doing. You know, when you're the paid soldier, the Halliburton, versus the U.S. soldier, they're not the same. One's a mercenary, and one is fighting for goodness for their country, for their families. One's there for a paycheck. And so I bring this up because there is so much trauma and guilt of those experiences and the conflict of what they thought they were doing and what they feel like they ended up doing, what happened to their friends, what happened to them. And then that can be even offered and projected to the same sentiment to the secret space program military industrial complex, those soldiers. This idea of what they thought they were doing versus what they actually were doing. And so I meditate on this a lot because I met many vets where I work. And I know that they are truly blessed. I know that they don't carry the burden of those experiences. They carry the knowing from those experiences, but they don't carry the karmic burden that they think they do. Those people who sent them there, who manipulated governments, politicians, individuals, they carry the burden of that karma. And many of them will transcend even though they don't feel they are worthy. Even though many of them don't feel they're worthy of a lot. They are blessed. Because they sacrificed mind, body, and spirit for the idea, for the thought, for the belief that they were doing something good. And it's those people who lied and manipulated who carry the karmic burden of that. There are not many other organizations or people I could say that about. But that information just kept comes so often to me that I just felt like I had to say it out loud. That you are blessed. That you don't carry the weight. You carry the knowing, you carry the experiences in your memory, in your consciousness. And for some that did the 20 and back, in your subconscious, you carry that some knowing, but you won't carry the karmic debt. Because these energies had no right to do what they did, and they thought they were circumventing the divine, but they're not. This was all decided at the beginning of time. I already know how this is going to end. Some nuances might change, but all you have to do is read Revelation and you'll know how it's going to end. going to sit here for a minute and see if anything else comes. In the beginning, when I was clearing my energy, there was a lot of festivity again for the transition. But there was a different energy that came in, and it was kind of, I want to say scary, but it wasn't projecting an energy of intimidation or fear, let's say, to try to intimidate me. But it came in very reassuring, and it came in when I was talking about Moses. And it kind of grabbed me by the back of the neck like this, like someone who's talking to me and looking me directly in my eye and just trying to assure me of something. That, like, everything's okay. And it just came in this second time, and I want to say it's like a mask. It looks like a mask, and it's red, but I can't describe the mask. It's not like a tribal mask or anything like that. A little bit like the dragons, like the statues of the dragons in China. It's similar to that, but it's not, and it was red. And it wasn't a dragon, but it was like large, I want to say, oversized a little bit. And it was very solemn as it walked up to me. And it gave me its condolences. Very much like, I think it was 2 videos ago, when all the beings in the summer triangle, the raptors and the beings in the water, were just very solemn because they knew that the transition was happening. Like, it was the week before I went to go see my dad. The video I did the week before I went to go see my dad. There's more of a solemn energy. So this energy had this solemn energy, and then what came to me was, it was a physical manifestation of the negative polarity. And if you want to perceive our idea of God as the light energy, and this perception of Satan or Lucifer as the dark energy, and then we have divinity as this overreaching, embodying both light and dark. This energy is projecting itself, manifesting itself as a physical being who served its purpose. And as I'm saying this, the ringing in my ears is going supernova. It's going so high right now. It's always there, but sometimes it's just when I have these epiphanies that goes really high. So it's basically telling me that it's done its job on this world. And it's honoring me. And it's showing gratitude for sending the messages. And it just expressed this idea that this energy embodies goodness, but when taken to the extreme, is harmful. And then I just have this idea, this vision of this sphere, this circle. So, the idea of drugs, okay? So people, when they get high or buzz, if they're just one drink or 2 drinks, and they come back to center, they're okay. But when they drink too much and it becomes excessive, right? Drink too much, do too much Coke or what is it, fennel, whatever they're doing now, or all these different drugs. If you take it all the way to the extreme, when you go from it being like a little bit of a high, a little bit of giddiness, and then you take a taxi, go home and go to sleep. If you take it to the extreme where you're way out, you become wild and out of control, you become harmful to yourself or others, that goodness all of a sudden circles around and it becomes darkness. Okay? If you can keep it, if this energy is projecting, if you can keep this towards the center, towards balance, everything's okay. If you keep it centered, keep it balanced. It's when things go to the extreme, whether it's something perceived as good or bad, if you take it to the extreme, that's when it becomes harmful. Someone who has enough money to be comfortable, for example, then all of a sudden becomes obsessed and they need more money, more money, more money, and then they'll do anything to have more money. Then they'll do anything to have more money than anybody on their block, anybody in their city, anybody in their state, anybody in their country, anybody on their planet. It becomes harmful because then they become an oppressor. They become someone who throws morals, values, principles out the window in order to gain wealth, rape Mother Earth, toxify our water, toxify our air, toxify our food, right? So that's the message this energy just sent. He's like, it's this energy saying, I'm not bad, but anything in extreme can become bad, can become darkness, can become negative, can embody the negative polarity, can become and manifest the negative polarity. So that's why those able to maintain centered, balanced energy will transcend. I allow temptation. I provide these things. These energies take it to the extreme and bastardize it. And they have to find their way back to center. I am not that thing. I provide the opportunity, and people can take it or leave it. And he said, you were chosen for this task because you always leave it. You are always able to leave it. You always learn your lessons. You are blessed. We are blessed. They will come for you. You will be reunited. All is as it should be. Okay, that's it. Thank you.